How much is the government paying you?
Not enough. If it was up to Elon Musk, he'd want to be born in a country that is suitable to his taxes. But we don't make that choice.
Go back to your own country holiday.
I think Reform would love that.
Yeah, what is love? I don't know what's going on.
Closer than me.
Me.
Yes. And even closer than you.
God.
The ideas that we sometimes have in our head, that buying this X will make me X. It doesn't work that way. Okay? You know, we are far superior than the things that we have created.
And I won't go into too much detail, but you've been through some very difficult things recently that would break anyone. And despite that, you've kept your whole life going, you know, all the work you're doing. As a fun fact, dear Sensei, I think between September and October, did about 60 back-to-back events that you spoke at across Pakistan and even the USA as well, yes, for a little bit in between. And I've always found that crazy how you've maintained your work and impact despite in the background struggling with so much.
Someone who has gained everything in the world and lost the remembrance of Allah, what has he gained? And someone who has lost all the world and gained the remembrance of Allah, he has gained everything.
You find someone to love.
I think you're a better authority on that than me, so you can tell me.
I can't tell you. IUH, okay? To make us happy. Welcome back, everybody, to the latest episode of the Methodology Mental Gym, your favorite podcast. Last episode, you guys loved it so much, so we thought we'd bring you the next one even quicker. And today's episode is with someone very, very special. He might even be my favorite sensei, by the way. And he's someone who actually we only connected with this year, but it feels like we've known each other for years now. And there's that genuine, beautiful connection, which I hope comes through the episode. This man is... he won't say it because he's too humble, but one of the leading public speakers, educational consultants, and inspiring philosophers in Pakistan. And he's a very dear sensei to us at Methodology. He's like family. His name is Israr Hassan Syed. Don't be scared by the name. And we're very honored to have him on board with us today. He's come a long way, and it's an honor and a pleasure. And I think, rather than hearing from me, you'd rather hear from him, right? I agree. So, Sensei, welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
How have you found it?
Alhamdulillah. It's better than I expected. So, you've done a mighty good job setting it up, and I think it's a let's pray that this is a source of benefit for many, many people who watch the podcast, inshallah.
Inshallah. Actually, fun fact, this whole setup is very much also inspired by Sensei's setup himself back in Pakistan. So I had the pleasure of visiting it this year. And, I hope one day all of you guys can come and see it for yourself as well. Just the whole village, the podcast studio and everything going on there, which we'll talk about later. But for now, I think what makes sense is if we introduce our beloved audience to our beloved Sensei. Sir, could you please very kindly give us the background story and everything before we dive into you now?
Well, this is not easy, but I'll do the best I can. And I think the best way to do it is to give you the facts as they are at the moment. So, as you know, I'm part of the legal profession here. I'm a solicitor. I don't so we have offices based in London. That's that. And where you visited in Pakistan, we are setting up a education system, Suluk International School. So what I try to do is, first of all, be a good student of sacred knowledge myself, because I think life is about learning. and being the best version of yourself that you can be, achieving the potential for which you were created and put onto the earth for. And that cannot happen unless you have that attitude to learn and to sort of progress and be better. So that's education. And so I'm trying to be a good student, first of all, and then after that, in turn, share that with anyone and whoever's interested. And I was really, really pleased, and it was an honor to have you there. And with regards to methodology, I think I'd like to say this at the outset, is possibly one of the most, potentially, actually not most, but potentially a vehicle that can do tremendous good. I've hopefully will get an opportunity to talk about it in this podcast with you, because I think I'm sure you do that anyway, but I'd like to be part of it too. What you stand for, the values, some of the things that we lack, especially within the medicinal world. It's become so systematic that it's almost a body without a soul, unfortunately, especially in England, with the red tape and with the way the NHS works and operates. This is not an opportunity to bash NHS, but in all honesty, with any profession in this world. But modology, I think, because before this podcast, the conversation that we were having, the ethical values, the morality side of things, when it comes to this organization, are incredible. And I have all the time for it and all the love for it. And I make all the dua that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you success, and more people can benefit from it. So, that's one of the reasons why we met and why we are where we are. So I think that's pretty much my introduction as far as the audience would be concerned.
Well, one thing that I'm wondering straight away is, I know this anyways, but you've come from a legal profession, legal background. You worked as a solicitor for many years.
Yeah.
But you've moved away from that life now, and you're now focusing on other things. You actually left the UK and resettled in Pakistan. What happened? Like, what inspired that change, and what's led you to now focusing on trying to, create more opportunities for education and uplift people there? What's the bridge between that?
If I was to be perfectly honest, I think it's the same for everybody. Like, you get to a point in life, whichever point it may be. I was reading this article the other day. They said that your brain changes when and don't quote me on this, I might get the numbers a bit out of place, but roughly 19, 32, 66, and 82. So those are the stages of life or development neurologically that they say that your brain changes. Now, so far in my life, what I've experienced, and in answer to your question, because you said, settling in Pakistan and moving, I think physically you come and go and you move from one space to another. Ultimately, the common denominator, no matter where you are, is always you. And it's just that journey or that process of self-discovery which changes with time. So with myself, with retrospect, I believe that doing what we're doing in Pakistan has always been at the core of everything that I am meant to do, which is service for people through education, to put it like that. That's always been at the core. My time here was a preparation for that task, or for that responsibility, or for that role. Your role also, I think, evolves with life. So my legal training was very much a part of it. And I think something we were discussing off camera earlier. Life should be about that. Life should not be isolated to certain stages where you think, oh, I was this person when I was 19. Now I'm 22, I'm this person. Now I'm 52, I'm this person. The person never changes. How the person acts in certain situations or certain stages of life, that is what evolves with time. It develops with time. It's a process. It's an ongoing, it's like one string, and you're at a different part of the string at a different time as the time goes on. So at the core of, if I was to talk about my journey, I suppose, if you want to put it that way, which isn't that interesting. I'll be honest with you. I'm very average and very, very common. But I think it happens to everybody. And if you look at it this way, I benefited a lot, and I think some of our audience would too. Your purpose, as and when it reveals itself to you, and when it does, you realize that this was always the core. So, for example, in my case, the education side of things, Saluk, the school, the system that we're developing, it was always at the core. My legal training is something that is helping me tremendously in that. My background academically is something which is helping me tremendously in that. My mistakes that I've made in life, and there are too many to count, are helping me tremendously in that. My education with some of the best teachers I could have ever hoped for is something which is helping me tremendously in that core objective, in that purpose that I have found. And Allah knows best. It may change, and as with this world, it's the nature of the world. Change. It does change, and it may change. But whatever it is, it will not change fundamentally. It will evolve because a person remains the same. How I know myself is something that evolves, something which doesn't it doesn't innately change, but it evolves. It doesn't remain the same. It's dynamic. You're in trouble when you stop moving. Okay? Because it's a sign of this life ending, because you're not moving anymore. So I think movement is a part of it. So for me personally, that was always at the core. So everything that I did here, I was born here, I was educated at some of the best institutes you can name in this country, alhamdulillah. I had a very diverse academic background. These are every single one of them an absolute blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I feel joy in saying this. I had no part in it. I didn't do anything to deserve this. So this was and is a blessing for me. But with those blessings, on the flip side, what comes is a sense of responsibility of actually now contributing or giving back what you have been blessed with, so that others can have a part of it too. And that is what you get credit for. Karma, as we call it, what goes around comes out. You do good things will happen. It's simple as that. So my whole journey through my academic life, like in terms of my graduate and undergraduate and graduate studies, and then my practice, which still goes on. I'm not as involved as I once was, but my primary focus is obviously what we're doing, and you've seen it. It's coming along. Make dua, it finishes in time. So all of this was a run up to that, and I feel that I think something you and we've connected on as well is that life is like that. You go through. Nobody's born with the knowledge of what they are supposed to do. You have to live life, and you have to make mistakes. You have to take the wrong turns, not deliberately, but you need to embrace that because it's part of life. Only for you one day to arrive at the right turn, at the right point, at the right place in life, which will lead on to you doing what you were created to do. That's purpose.
There's a lot to unpack. But I don't think that message would really resonate with a lot of students that we, serve and listening. Because a lot of them, I guess, are quite young and they're finding their direction and their calling. How did you know that what you had found was the thing, to pursue your efforts to and energy towards, when we've got so much choice, like we could do anything. And especially when you're so young, at that age, you see many routes ahead of you. So how did you kind of decide that this is where you want to go?
I'll share something that one of my beloved teachers shared with me at a very critical point in life. They said to me, process of elimination. So what it meant in their situation, advice to me, and I'm sharing that with everybody else. Nobody knows what, if somebody, and there may be some people who might say, yes, I was born for this and I knew this and this is what I'm doing, and it all remains the same. There's very few people in this world. I'm not ruling that out. But most people like ourselves, like myself, they need this advice that I got from my teacher, which was, in essence, this process of elimination. Like, for you to know what is it that you want to do or what is it that you should be doing, you need to do a lot of things, right? To know that, no, this is not for me. And at this juncture, you have many people advising that it's your passion you should follow. It's what you desire you should follow, or what, like an opportunist approach, whatever opportunity comes up, you should cash in on it. The advice that I was given by my teacher is that you should find out what you're good at. And once you find that out, that is what you should pursue. And you have to make a distinction at that level, because pursuance, as far as this world is concerned, is one thing. Pursuance with the next life in mind is another thing. But we'll limit to the former. We'll talk about the former, pursuit of things for this life. And the advice I was given was that find out what you're good at. So essentially, as many others like myself we tried many different things. I tried many different things. And I found at the end that I'm miserably bad at many, many things, until eventually I arrived at the things that by any standard I'm relatively good at. And it means something to me. It's not necessarily, it's like, it's more than passion. Like passion can be fleeting at times. It has a high and a low point. So to base a life decision, and I think it'll be interesting to make this point here, what we were talking about earlier downstairs about the medical journey for for somebody who studies medicine to somebody who practices medicine, is incredibly long. I never really appreciated until we had this discussion downstairs, and you said, we worked out that roughly you've got to be about 30 odd to be, some substantial in terms of your medicinal career. That's a huge part of your life. And I don't think something like a legal profession will demand those many years as medicine does. So that's a huge part of life. Unless you know quite early on that this is it, what you want to do with your life, it is very dangerous to spend all these years to get to the middle of it or the end of it and realize, actually, this is not for me. But if you are one of those people, even then there is hope, because you have the rest of your life to make sure that you do something else. So I think the idea is to have a mindset which is positive. And I'd like to say at this point, something that has helped me in my darkest moments is what is from the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He never despaired. In fact, even better than that, he never let people despair. The darkest of the times, and we can point those out by some of the time in Taif was perhaps one of the most darkest times, when he'd left Makkah and there was no hope, and he'd gone to Taif with a lot of hope, thinking that this will be an opportunity. And that obviously ended up being a closed door. And that was a really, really low point. But even in the lowest of the lowest points, our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam never despaired. He never let darkness or negativity or toxicity, things that we now appreciate more than ever before, he never let that overtake his drive, overtake his movement in life. And I think we can learn a lot from that, and that's really benefited me tremendously in my journey. In light of the advice from my good teachers as well, that even if you spend a lot of your time doing something, because remember, time is the only currency, it's the only wealth that we have. Everything else is, it's not what it appears to be. No matter how much time you've spent studying law or studying medicine or doing something else, and you get to a point where you realize this is not for me, then the only best thing you can do is do something else. And that's what I did. My undergraduate was philosophy of religion and ethics that I studied at King's, and at the end of that I realized that there's certain things I could have, it's a humanities subject, certain things I could have done, but I realized no, I want to do law. And then when I was going through my legal studies, I realized actually no, I should be doing something else. But alhamdulillah, I'm not complaining today. What I'm saying is that one of the most important lessons that I learned, no matter how many years or how much time you spend doing something, that you some point, if you realize that this is it, excellent. If not, then the next best thing to do is to do something else. And that's really, I think that's really one of the best advices that I had.
I feel like you've taken on a very big mission with your life now in terms of everything you're doing in Pakistan and uplifting the region and uplifting Punjab, you could say. And I know you're a British Pakistani just like me, and you've grown up here. You know what people here are like in terms of people like us, the British Pakistani public.
Yeah.
A lot of us have written off Pakistan. You know, we don't. A lot of us don't like going there. We've forgotten the language. We don't really feel much association to it apart from the food on our tables and our clothes on Eid, maybe at most. I think we've written off a lot of us. So, what's your message to people like that who have written off, the country and look at you and think, "Wow, this man has taken on a mission that is never going to work out." It's like, what is he doing? Like, is he silly?
Well, before we get to that, why don't you tell me, why have people written off Pakistan?
I think they blame things like the government, the politics, but also I guess our people as well haven't necessarily, created the best impression and of us as a state and as a people abroad. We don't really behave in other countries, you could say, and yeah, I think that all those factors mean that people have written off.
Well, before we talk about Pakistan and how I believe that it shouldn't be written off, I think there's a fundamental problem with how we make judgments. And we all make judgments. We shouldn't make judgments, but we all have to make judgments to, for example, you see a snake and you make a judgment whether it's going to be venomous or not. And based on how much you know about snakes, certain colors indicate that they are, and certain color snakes indicate that they're not venomous. Now, if you have that information, if you have that knowledge, then you can make that judgment. So we do make judgments. Similarly with Pakistan or Pakistani people, we make a judgment. So with regards to politics or politicians or the government setup, how many politicians do we know? How many political scenarios are we familiar with, or do we have intimate knowledge of sitting here in England? Not many, if any, number one. Number two, when we say the poor impression Pakistanis make upon me, for example, for me to have a bad opinion of Pakistan, Pakistanis, that if I will allow somebody, I'll give you an example to make my point clear. If I allow somebody to decide my opinion of something, then I'm not the one making that opinion. It's not my opinion. It's their opinion. I'll give you an example. Something annoys me and it makes me angry. Is the anger, am I in control of the anger? Am I in control of that feeling, or something? Have I allowed something else to influence my feeling of anger?
Something else.
Yeah. So who has the control? Me or that thing that's made me angry?
That thing.
Okay. So whoever has the control, if it's not me, then I've given my power to that thing by allowing it to influence how I feel. It's the same thing we're doing with Pakistan. So, for example, when the plane lands at Heathrow, full of Pakistanis, it's a totally different atmosphere. You wouldn't get out of your seat until the captain himself comes out of the cockpit and says, "Please get out of your seat. We're home." As opposed to the plane landing in Lahore or Islamabad or in Pakistan from London. The pilot would be mid-air and people would be jumping out of their seats, grabbing their luggage. And you think these are the same people on the same return or, outbound or inbound journey. How can they be so different? The environment has an impact on you. How you feel towards that environment has an impact on you. Not everyone on that plane does that. So that goes on to show that not everyone is the same. Okay. And it also makes a point that they have decided to act in a certain way, and that's on them. It's not on me. So why should I see their behavior and let that, let that decide the impression I'm going to have of Pakistan, of my people? Why would I do that? unless there's something wrong with the way I make judgments. So I think we need to look at how we make judgments. And we need to establish a groundwork. We need to have a paradigm or a model to follow in which we make good judgments. And based on that, we can then decide. Like when you came to Pakistan, I remember we had a really, really good time and we went around. And you were very kind to come visit me. And you saw that side. And I remember, I'm not quoting you, but I remember you saying something along the lines that, you know, I haven't really seen this side of Pakistan, or, you know, and the time that we spent together. And I could tell that this is something new for you. Okay. But just because something is new for you doesn't mean that it's never been there, or if it's or it's something new, full stop. It's new for you. It's always been there. There's good and bad in every society. So if we can fix the way we make judgments and we decide how we're going to view certain things and the process with which we're going to view it, the outcome will be different. So there's an argument to be made. You and I, for example, will not have a bad impression of Pakistan if there is something that can be fixed with the way I view or the way I arrive at that impression, which is by not letting the behavior of others decide what I'm going to do. My impression should be based on my experience.
What if I bring to you facts like Pakistan's GDP or its economy and say, look at that. It's clearly on the down.
But it's not going to affect you. You're going from here. So anybody from England or USA or from another country is not going to be. In fact, your forefathers made a decision at some point to leave Pakistan and to come here. And it was an immigration, not on the back, it was an economic immigration. You know, it wasn't because, you know, the grass is, well, actually, yeah, there's an argument to be the grass is greener on this side, I suppose, because of the rain. But it was for a purpose, and they fulfilled that purpose. It just so happens that they fulfilled that purpose and they probably never had the time to go back and live the life they used to live, because now they have evolved into a different person. But the side effect of that decision was that you are now here. If your grandfather hadn't made that move, you would have never been here. Now here's a key question. You are here looking from out. You're here and looking at Pakistan from here. You're on the outside of something that your forefathers were born into. Right? So the argument I'm essentially trying to make is simply this, that for you to really know your lineage, the flesh and blood that you have, for you to really know that, you can't know it from the out. You need to be in. It can't be something that you can know by theory. It can't be something that Hamid Mir Saab is talking on the talk show about what X, Y, and Z did. Or it can't be on the back of just how certain people behave differently when they land at Heathrow as opposed to landing in Lahore. It can't be that. It's got to be you making that journey back to your place of origin and being within and seeing it with the eyes that has the same DNA makeup that your great-grandfather had. And then, yeah, you may stand a chance to be part of the family tree that you're from. Otherwise, there's a disconnect. Right now, there is a disconnect. And that disconnect makes me, you, and everyone who's involved in that disconnect vulnerable to having a bad opinion of something which inherently isn't bad.
How much is the government paying you?
Not enough.
Okay, that's fine. So you're saying that us here, it's very premature to make a conclusion and decision when we've got no experience living there and we're just observing from the outside. Fair enough. So do you think there's hope for the country then?
Absolutely. I think there's hope for me. And I think there's hope for you. Mm-hmm. I think there's hope for this world. I wouldn't be able to live a single moment without that hope. And if you say to me, what is that hope? I would say the mercy of Allah. We are here for a reason. We're here for a purpose. And it's a journey. You can't have a baby come into this world, and you bring babies into the world. You work at a hospital, so you probably, I suppose you have to go into the maternity ward to see that. But you see it more than I do, okay? And when a baby comes into this world, it comes empty-handed. But that's only one side. Let me tell you about when somebody leaves this world. It's empty-handed. You don't take anything with you. You don't bring anything with you. You don't take anything with you. Then what is it? It's a self-discovering journey that's between the cradle and the grave. That's it. And what is that all about? It's about education. It's about knowing. Okay, so I think if we, and no matter which paradigm you work with, I mean, we happen to work with the Islamic paradigm because, we're Muslims, but I have enormous respect for other paradigms. This is what our religion teaches us. It doesn't teach us to dismiss the different, okay? It teaches us to find familiarity even in the different, okay? That's where we unite. Like Hazrat Ali, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said something profound. He said, I'll paraphrase, he said something along the lines that if you are not my brother in faith, then you're my brother in humanity, right? It is about connection, Dr. Saab. It's about connection. And what a pity to be connected with everything and losing the connection that you came with in the world. Your origin, your forefathers, your family. It's a big thing. And unfortunately the life, we're living in postmodern times, and as the clock goes forward, it's only becoming tougher. The social fabric, the fabric of familial life is breaking down. We are not investing in family. You look at the system that we have here. So Monday to Friday, it's a 9 to 5 grind. And you said that word grind earlier, and I said, I don't like it because it shouldn't be a grind. It's not meant to be a grind. One of my teachers, he spent a lot of time, almost 7 years, he said, he spent with Bedouins. Possibly the last scholastic Bedouins. He spent 7 years with them, and he said, one of the things I realized is that you actually don't need much to survive at all. You don't need much to survive, to live, to be alive. Everything is in the air for us to sustain life. But we have built this system around it that makes me believe that I need this and I need this and I need this. And in pursuit of those things, I spend the only thing which is the most precious commodity, more than oil, more than cobalt that is used in all our lithium batteries, more than anything this world has, stocks, gold, whatever. The most precious commodity is time. Okay, and it's constantly running out. And my teacher who spent all that time there, he said, we don't need much to stay alive. Yet we spend time acquiring things with our time that sucks the life out of us. And that's what this system is doing. So you have a good friend of mine, I was sitting, he's a pharmacist. And he said, my rota changed recently. Like by recently means 3 years. So he said, my rota changed. And I said, okay, so what? And he said, the thing that I realized after my rota change is that I have no time for my kids. He works from early hours till late evenings. And he only has like a day or two off. As you would, but 5 days a week, you're doing something where by design, you're meant to miss that dinner time with your kids. By design, you're meant to leave your kids with somebody else to look after them. Okay? So when these things happen, the value system starts breaking down. And this is what this system is almost designed. And it's our doing. I'm not blaming anybody. This is our doing. I believe that life should be about not breaking away actually. Life should be about making progress in that system, making it fit for my use, for your use.
Very true. And I'll look forward to unpack that in a bit actually. For now, I want to actually zoom back into something that you said to me the first time we met, which is that you said that we all have a duty towards the land that birthed us, our ancestors and everything. And I know the reason, but to someone listening in or hearing that for the first time, why? Like, why do we all have a duty to the land we came from or our ancestors when surely they did what they did to set us up where we are now. Like they didn't do what they did for us to go and reverse everything they did, if that makes sense, right? So what's the reason that we all have that duty?
Don't you want to know who you are?
I'd love to.
Okay, so how tall are you?
I think I'm like 6'2".
6'2". Have you had anybody in your family say that you are like X in terms of height?
Yeah.
So you got it from?
My maternal uncle.
Well, there you go. So don't you want to know him?
I know him.
Okay, but let's imagine it's your great uncle.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you want to know him? And to know him, wouldn't you want to go to where he's from? Okay, wouldn't you want to know the land that he came from? It's all part of knowing you. Yes, it is a bit selfish, but you need to know yourself. And to know yourself, you need to know where you came from and what shaped. I mean, we can understand what shaped the decision that our forefathers made, grandfathers made, grandmothers made in coming to this country. We had no power over whether we wanted to be born here or somewhere else. I think if it was up to Elon Musk, he'd want to be born in a country that is suitable to his taxes. But we don't make that choice. The choice that we make is whether we want to know our tradition, whether we want to know where we come from, so that we can find out who we are. But the key question is, why do you want to know you? It's so that you can find your purpose. Why was I put here? What am I here to do? I want something that is going to be meaningful. And that's the whole thing. We spend 15, 16, 20 years in a profession without ever stopping for a single moment to ask ourselves this question. But it's a blessing from Allah that we have so many crises which stops us in our tracks and forces us to fall into despair and say this question out loud, like, who am I? What am I here to do? Okay? And it's those questions that would lead on to that lead on to that journey of you trying to find yourself out. So that is one of the reasons why you want to connect with your origin, with the land of your origin. Okay, there's in our tradition there's a beautiful saying. It says that wherever you're buried is the same. The soil that somebody's buried in is the same soil from which they were created. I mean, that blows my mind. I mean, that in itself, I'd want to know that soil. I'd want to know its smell. I'd want to know what it feels like in my hand. Okay, because my great-grandfather I never met. I didn't even see my grandfather. He passed away when my father was very young. Okay, but I've seen his grave. I've seen the room that my father was born in. I've seen the town that we're from. And you know, that gives me this sense of belonging. I can point on a map and say, actually, that's where my grandfather's from. That's where my father is from. And what that does for my self-esteem are incredible things. And you apply the same thing to your deen. You apply the same thing to your history. And you can trace it back 1450 years, back to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You can see somebody praying, or you can pray yourself. And you bow down before Allah, and you can trace that practice back 1450 odd years, all the way back to that to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who showed us how to do it. What does that give you? What does that give me? It gives me security. It gives me confidence. It gives me this reassurance that I'm not the only one. Okay, so it's the same logic. You apply it to this, or you apply it to that. That's why I would say to you, I wouldn't say it to somebody else who's from a different part of the world. I would say, go find where you know, if you're, for example, people who are from here, okay, they should know their family trees. They should know, and they do. I remember not recently, but a number of years ago, there was this big thing about your family tree, and you can, you know, log in a few details and find out which part of the world you're from. Like, where does that sense come from? If not this, that I want to know who I am. And with that, I think this is a much more interesting conversation, that you can inherit your height from your maternal uncle. What about the complexes from the same family that we have inherited. How are we going to address those on top of the new complexes and insecurities that my environment will give me? And the reason I need to know that, most importantly, is so that innocently I do not pass that on to the next generation. That's a responsibility. So that alone in itself is enough for me to take a sabbatical and go out and find out where I'm from. And I would encourage everybody to do that.
Let's do it. Let's go on a methodology. Go back to your own country holiday.
I think Reform would love that.
Yeah, right, Ustad. I want to change the angle a little bit.
Yeah.
I've got a question for you that's going to take you by surprise.
Okay.
What is love?
Do you want the honest answer?
Yeah. I don't know what's going on. I can see the tears in your eyes already.
I'll tell you what Imam Ghazali said in Ihya Ulumuddin. I was going to say something, but I think that would have been a bit of a cliche, but that's why I didn't say it. So I'm going to go to Imam Ghazali instead. In fact, I'll say it anyway. What I was going to say is that love is pain. And only the broken will relate to that. There is no love without pain. But I think there's a better definition than this. Imam Ghazali said love is when two different people with the same temperaments come together. Mizaj, he calls it. So two people, when they come together with a uniting of temperance or temperaments, for example, that's love. That connection is love. When there is intensity in that love, it develops or evolves, not develop, evolves into ishq. And when the beloved and the lover cannot exist without each other, it becomes mawaddat. So you know, love, if muhabba or hub in Arabic, I think Arabic is an amazing language. Like English is good as well, but English is very limited in terms of using the words to, so mawaddat is when the lover detached from the beloved dies. A step down is ishq, which is intense love. And the first level, the beginning of everything is love, where two people come together when the two people meet, like in terms of temperaments. So, you and I have something in common and we agree upon, for example, can be a semblance of love on some level.
Interesting. I mean, I asked that question because what you said about trying to discover yourself or find yourself got me thinking that I guess as humans, we're all trying to find something and find things. So love kind of reminded me that maybe we're all trying to find love as well.
No, I think we're all trying to find a point where we are loved. More than loving. The one who can love separates the corn from the chaff. So the one who can love is superior to the one who is loved.
Wow. It's such a deep topic. And another reason I asked you is because every time you talk about love, you just enter a different realm. Like you're a human. I know you're a human, but you seem supernatural when you talk about it.
Astaghfirullah. That's not the case at all. But look, let's put it this way. What do we see most of in this day and age? In the conflicts that we see on a personal and a public level? What is one emotion or one feeling that is at its height in this age, more than perhaps ever before, that leads on to bloodshed, that leads on to destruction on an unparalleled level? And if you look at places around the globe, you'll find many examples. That one feeling or one emotion is hate. If hate, hate, and we have evidence of this, is so destructive, then what's the antidote to that destruction? Love. Okay, so I think that's it. It's like it's you've got to. Somebody said to me, they said only broken people can fix broken people. Okay, so we've got to be wary of that. And the question is like, how can the broken people fix the broken people? With love. But what comes with breaking? Pain. One of the most beautiful miracles of this life is birth of a human being. And I read somewhere that a woman, they kind of quantified the pain. They said, and you're probably a better authority on this than I am, but I read somewhere, they said it's equivalent of childbirth is equivalent. The pain that the lady or the mother experiences is simultaneously 900 bones breaking in your body. So much pain can give birth, like so much pain in birth leads to life is an incredible thing. So imagine, from pain when love comes to the front. Imagine the power in that. And that's what we're lacking today. That's why we have schisms and we have divisions and we have this powerful drive to be different. It's all about individualism. It's all about being original. It's all about being me. And I'm borrowing these words from our architect. You've seen what is being designed. And he came and he said nothing's real. He's an architect. He's actually a world leading authority on Islamic Mughal architecture. And he designed the complex that we're building in Pakistan. So he said something profound. He said nothing's original. And he was speaking in the context of architects trying to be original in their design. He said, nothing's original. I said, what is it then? He said, it's all tracing back your way to the origin. Because ultimately, if you're from the Islamic tradition, for example, we're not even from Earth, let alone Pakistan. We're celestial beings, as they say. I mean, that's our tradition. But min sha'arillah, the signs of Allah in our buildings, in our lifestyle, in the way we speak, dress, and lead our life and do whatever, the best are those that point us back to the origin. And love is the universal language. Like if you speak Bengali and I speak Urdu, but we have love, we'll still connect. And the same goes in this country. Like you hear about all sorts of atrocities every now and then, simply born out of hate. And imagine, yes, there are differences and everybody's different in their own way. But imagine we can connect everything and everybody with love. And this is not your 1960s hippie type of love. This is the real thing. This is love which is born out of love for the one who created you. But you need to love you to know the one who created you.
I also mentioned this word love because it's like a hook, especially for students, right? If students see love in the caption or the title of this podcast, they'll be a lot more likely to click on this. And I think let's give them what they want as well, because if they've made it this far, then they deserve to have some more pressing matters to them immediately right now rectified, which is, how do you find love in this day and age? True love as a romantic partner, you could say, how do you find someone to love?
I think you're a better authority on that than me, so you can tell me.
I can't tell you.
I can, look. Looking for love doesn't find love. I think what needs to be done, just like with you going into an operation theater, what do? You prep. You get ready. It's the same thing here. You've got to prep. You've got to make peace with yourself. with your flaws, with your weaknesses. And this is not just, some philosophy out of a 99 pence book. I'm telling you the real thing. Okay, and I think for everybody's understanding, I won't philosophize too much. In simple, you've got to love yourself to know what love is, so that you can share it with somebody else. We make this mistake of going out looking for love when it's not. It's not. When you go out looking for love, you're not actually looking for love. You're looking to satisfy something which is in the shape of an urge within you. Now, there are two ways of going about that. And we won't get into that, but I think it's more important to focus on this one fact, is that when you're looking for love, you won't find it. It has to come to you. But what if it comes to you and it passes you by and you don't see it? Isn't that a more pertinent question to answer before you look for love or think about looking for love? Well, the answer to that would be is that you need to have a taste of it yourself. And who's the closest person to you?
You. As in...
Okay.
Yeah.
Even closer than me.
Me.
Yes. And even closer than you.
God.
Yeah. You know why? Because he said, I'm closer to you than your jugular vein. Mm-hmm. But how can I love God if I can't see him? How can I love somebody that I can't feel? How can I love somebody that is not tangible? Who do I love then?
The people that he sent.
Yes, but the people that he sent are many people.
The best ones of those.
Yeah. But where do you
Prophets.
start? Where do you start? That's the question.
Parents?
Well, not everybody has parents. Not everybody has parents. That's what I'm saying to you. You need to start from you. You need to start from you. How? And you might ask me, and I think I don't want to make it too heavy. So we'll keep it light. You want to start from you, and you say, how can I love myself? Well, by looking after your body, by looking after yourself, by paying attention to how you feel, by saying to yourself every now and then that life is difficult, life is hard. Give yourself a break, but not an excuse to do things so that somebody else carries your weight. You carry your own weight. But you need to love yourself. But to love yourself, and look, again, to love yourself, you need to know you. How do you know you? You can only know you if you have information about you. You can only know you if you see you. You can only know you if you hear you. Well, let's make it easy. You need to do all of those things to really know you. You need to live life to know you. You can't live life just watching this podcast. As much as Dr. Amin wants everybody to watch this podcast, you should watch this podcast so that we can get the credit for saying the right things to you. But look, we need to get out. You need to travel. You need to see this world. I was driving on the way up and I came a long way today. And I can't remember. It was just after Birmingham. And I looked out, because it was raining a lot from where we come from in the earlier part of the journey. And the skies cleared up after Birmingham. And I looked out of the window whilst we were driving and I saw the sky. Now you might say, well, I see the sky every day, you might say. Well, first of all, that's not true because you can't see the sky every day in England because it's so cloudy. But this one time, today, it wasn't cloudy and I saw the sky. And I can't put into words how I felt. My question to you, in fact, my advice to you, in fact, my request to you and to you, just look up at the sky and you will see the blessings that we already have. We have all the air we need. We have all the sustenance that we need. Okay? We have all the reasons that we need to love me, love yourself, and to love the life that you've been blessed with. And the purpose is to love him who gave it to you. So I think in between that, you can find, and there's levels, like people love their parents, people love their partners, spouses, children. Yes, these are phases, but the ultimate love is only for God.
We'll move away from this topic because I think we should have a fully separate episode on love, marriage, relationships, maybe at some point.
Yeah.
Or maybe that might be a horrific thing for you to talk about. Maybe not. But anyways, I also asked you about love because I think you're someone who it's hard to describe, and not just showering unnecessary praise on you, but you almost radiate love. Like when you speak about certain topics, when you speak about, the prophets and God and stuff, you do radiate that. So I've always wondered what your, you know, thoughts are and views are and things to share about that topic are. But what I'm actually curious about right now is I know, and I won't go into too much detail, but you've been through some very difficult things recently that would break anyone. And despite that, you've kept your whole life going, all the work you're doing. As a fun fact, Dear Sensei, I think between September and October, did about 60 back-to-back events that you spoke at across Pakistan and even the USA as well, for a little bit in between. And I've always found that crazy how you've maintained your work and impact despite in the background struggling with so much that could break anyone and would seriously hold anyone back. So how have you powered through that? What's been the secret to, I guess, staying resilient and battling through those challenges?
Well, by believing fundamentally that everyone struggles, everyone goes through pain, everyone loses things, everyone is alone at one point or another. So it doesn't give me comfort, that thought, but it gives me, weirdly enough, it gives me this, it gives me this sense that I'm not alone and there are other people with me. But more importantly, I want to share this with you. He's passed away now, Wahiduddin Khan Sahab. And I was watching one of his videos a while back, and he said this one thing, and it deeply moved me. And he was very emotional when he said this. He said I sat up one night and I realized that I haven't felt that ecstatic state of longing for Allah. And he said, in that moment I had this, I'm paraphrasing, he said, in the moment I felt this profound loneliness that I never felt before. And what moved me is his next sentence. Because he said the very next moment that followed that moment of utter loneliness, and we find ourselves lonely many, many times. I traveled on the tube the other day after quite a long time. And it was very different to how it was just a few years back when I traveled. So I've traveled on the tube after a few years, I think. You would get an eye contact every now and then. London tube, London is London, I suppose. But everybody was either in their smartphones or just in their own thoughts. There was no icon, and that's loneliness. When there's no connection, we're social human beings, we're social animals. We need that connection. Excuse me. And Wahiduddin Khan Sahab, what he said next really, really had an impact. He said it was a profoundly lonely moment, he said, that he had. And in that, he had this sense that he has not had a connection with his Lord. He said, I felt totally alone. The next thing had the impact, which he said, from a place deep within me that I cannot name, there came this cry to my Lord, that have you left me? And Khan Sahib said, Wahiduddin Khan said, he said, in that instant, I had the fath, the opening of that connection with Allah. And I felt loneliness no more. I really believe, may Allah give everybody a long, healthy life, our parents, the ones that we love. We all go through struggles, and I've had mine, and you're having yours, and everybody has their own. This is not about me, and it shouldn't be about me anyway. I'm not nearly important enough to be discussed. But I think human struggles are important to be discussed. I think our well-being is important to be discussed. I think our mental health is important enough to be discussed. We should discuss these things. We should discuss this lack of connection that we have in our society. And as Muslims, as people of faith, and you can be Jewish, you can be Christian, or you can be somebody of no faith, but yet you will have faith in something. If not the supernatural being, then maybe science. If not science, then maybe your own strength. You have faith in something. Across the board, everybody's going through this loneliness epidemic. We worry so much about COVID. Again, something that has made people more lonely because of that lack of connection. These are the things we should be talking about. These are the things we should struggle and we should work towards eliminating in our society. You do these workshops through Methodology. May Allah bless you and give you more opportunity to do this better and for wider audience than you're doing it now. For inshallah. But ultimately, what you're giving them advice, you're giving them your experience, all of those things. But you're giving one more thing, which you won't be able to do if you were not doing this work, which is that connection, right? That is the most important thing, okay? But you can, something Hazrat Imam Hussain alayhi salam said, he said something really interesting. He said, someone who has lost everything in the world, sorry, let me start again. He said, someone who has gained everything in the world and lost the remembrance of Allah, what has he gained? And someone who has lost all the world and gained the remembrance of Allah, he has gained everything. That's the most fundamental thing. The thing that makes your heart beat. That's that connection. If we can start from there, I think everything else falls into place in time.
Wow. I always like how the discussion starts on one thing and then it goes to many other places, and you're like a human soundbite machine in terms of all these amazing quotes. Where'd you learn them from?
My teachers. None of it is from me. I'm not original. I have no original thought. It's teachers. It's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's from Quran. It's from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Listen, let me say something to you. You've asked me about love. You've asked me about these things, and I've mentioned the most important thing to you about the connection part of things. But I'd like to say one more thing. You need to make your decision, and this is not just to you personally, because I know you and you have made a decision. But I would say to those who are listening or watching, you need to make a decision because you have limited time, and time is running out. And it will run out. And we will leave. And nobody has ever returned after leaving this world. No one. Okay? You could be from England, America, or Pakistan. You need to decide what is it that you are going to do in this life. Whether you are able to do it or not is not up to you. But you need to decide what you're going to do. And to do that, you need to try different things. But before any of that, you need to decide. And something interesting about decision, and we were discussing this a while back. I did a workshop on this actually at one of the universities in Pakistan. The biggest obstacle, what the biggest obstacle is when it comes to decision making?
Distraction.
Yeah. Do you know what distraction means?
In Latin? To be lost? I have no idea.
So in Latin it's desideri, and it basically means insanity. This is the most distracted age that we're living in, starting from the notifications on your phone and these silly ideas that we sometimes have in our head that buying this X will make me X. It doesn't work that way. Okay? We are far superior than the things that we have created. So we shouldn't let them control us. It should be the other way around. So desideri, distraction, it basically means insanity. Okay, so for example, you're sitting across the table from somebody who's not really listening to you, who keeps looking around, keeps fidgeting. You will not see him as normal. You will imagine him to be abnormal in some sense, on some level. Okay, but if you were to put into word the state that you see that other person in, is distracted state. To be distracted is not to be normal. To be normal is to have that engagement in a conversation with the other person across the table, to focus, to concentrate, to connect. Okay? So distraction is exactly the opposite of that. With decision making, the biggest obstacle is distraction. So distraction is what is basically, it's a form of insanity. So if you get rid of that, okay, then there are 5 steps to make a decision. If you get rid of distraction, then you can make good decisions, or a decision, or any decision. But as long as you're distracted, there's no sense of decision making. So I would say to everybody, whatever is distracting you from deciding what is it that you want to do with your life, you need to get rid of that distraction. You need to identify it and deal with it. Because otherwise, you will think that you're making a decision, and at every turn when it matters the most, you will not be steadfast. You will not persevere. You will kill yourself because of whatever burden you've put on yourself in despair, in depression. That's why a lot of people have these issues, is because they haven't made the decision properly, and they're distracted by their own thoughts, thinking, should I have done this? You know, becoming double-minded and confused. So I would say at this stage, and I will end it here, is that we need to decide. I've made my decision, and I believe you've made yours as well. But, you know, people who are watching, if there's anybody who's watching needs to make a decision, you need to decide now, because time is running out.
Wow. I think that is a very poetic and deep note to end it on today, actually. It will certainly get them thinking. And I'd like to thank you publicly on record, Sensei, for coming on and sharing the wisdom. And there's so much more that we could have discussed. And we've been talking for 3 hours before this, and we'll talk for 5 more after. This is just a snippet of some of our conversations.
You're too kind. Thank you.
There's, again, so much more we can unpack. But I think mental health is a thing.
Yes.
And we don't want to keep these guys on too long. But yeah, I'm very grateful that you made the trip. And I look forward to a lot more. And to those watching, Sensei Israr Hassan Syed, the Sensei, is someone I believe is going to play a massive part in not only helping the team, but also shaping this community over coming years as well. So look out, a lot more is in store. I look forward to doing a lot with you, both in the UK, in Pakistan, and wherever else is destined for us. But I think for now, we'll pause it for there. But I'd like everyone who got to this point to comment IUH, okay, to make us happy. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much.